I will never forget the day I walked into that courtroom. My hands were steady, my heart was strong, but I knew what I was up against. I had seen it too many times before. The judgment, the smirks, the way they looked at me before I even spoke a word. Today would be no different. Or so I thought. I was fighting a case that meant everything to me. I had studied the law inside and out, not in some fancy law school, but through books, late nights, and a determination that no one could take from me. I was representing myself because I couldn't afford a lawyer, but that didn't mean I was unprepared. I had spent months reading legal texts, memorizing case law, and understanding the system that was never built to protect people like me. I knew the odds were stacked against me, but I also knew that I had truth on my side. As I stood before the judge, I could see the amusement in his eyes. He leaned back in his chair, tapping his fingers against the desk, as if he had already made up his mind about me. "You're representing yourself?" he asked, barely able to hide his smirk. "Yes, Your Honor," I said, keeping my voice calm and steady. My heart pounded in my chest, but I refused to let it show. I had prepared for this moment, and I was not about to back down. He chuckled, shaking his head. "All right, let's see what you've got." The prosecutor, a well-dressed man with an air of arrogance, stepped forward, presenting his case with confidence. He threw around big legal terms, expecting me to stumble. He looked at me like I was nothing more than an inconvenience. Just another black man wasting the court's time. His voice was sharp, his words precise, but I listened carefully, picking apart his arguments as he spoke. When it was my turn to speak, I took a deep breath and stepped forward. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't waver. I laid out my defense with clarity and confidence. I quoted laws, cited past cases, and presented evidence so clearly that the room fell silent. The smirk on the judge's face slowly faded. The prosecutor shuffled his papers, his confidence cracking. I could feel the weight of history in that room. How many times had men like me stood in front of judges like him, already condemned, before they had a chance to speak? But I was not going to be another statistic. I was not going to let them dismiss me. I had worked too hard, sacrificed too much, and believed in myself too deeply to let them reduce me to a joke. I kept going, dismantling the prosecution's argument piece by piece. I pointed out inconsistencies, challenged their evidence, and referenced previous rulings that supported my case. I made sure they had no room to twist my words or undermine my position. The judge's expression changed as I spoke. What had started as amusement had turned into something else, respect, maybe even a little regret. He shifted in his seat, no longer leaning back, no longer looking down on me. The prosecutor, once so confident, was suddenly on the defensive. He tried to counter my arguments, but I was ready for every single one. When I finished, the courtroom was silent. The judge sat there for what felt like an eternity before he finally spoke. "I must admit," he said, his voice quieter now, "I underestimated you. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The ruling came down in my favor. I had won." As I walked out of that courtroom, I felt something shift, not just in the case but in the air. Maybe I didn't change the system that day. Maybe I didn't rewrite history. But for a moment I made them see me. I made them listen. And that, to me, was everything. Outside, the weight of the moment hit me all at once. I thought about the nights I spent studying, the times I doubted myself, the moments when I wondered if this fight was worth it. But standing there, feeling the sun on my face, I knew it was. Because every battle won, no matter how small, chips away at the walls built to keep us out. Every time we stand up, we make it harder for them to ignore us. That day, I walked away not just with a victory, but with something far greater. Proof that I was more than what they believed me to be. Proof that knowledge, resilience, and courage could defy even the deepest prejudices. And maybe, just maybe, the next black man who walks into that courtroom will be met with a little less doubt, a little less mockery, and a little more respect. Days later, I received a letter in the mail. It was from a young man who had been sitting in the courtroom that day, watching. He told me that he had been on the verge of giving up, believing that the system would never see him as more than a statistic. But after witnessing my case, he said, he had hope again. He had seen that the fight was worth it. I sat with that letter for a long time. It made me realize that our battles are never just about us. We fight for the ones who come after us, For the ones who watch from the sidelines, unsure if they should take that step forward. If my case had given even one person the courage to keep pushing, then that was a victory in itself. The world doesn't change overnight. But moment by moment, case by case, voice by voice, we force it to see us. And one day that tide will turn for good.